From National Public Radio in Washington, I'm Nicholas Johnson. This is Options.
My mother didn't come. Got rid of her.
Yeah. How did you manage that? Why didn't your mother come?
She doesn't have a bicycle.
So she couldn't keep up with you, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
That's probably it.
We have an offbeat adventure in store for you. It's the story of a community of 3,000 people in the Midwest, what makes them different, and the lessons their experience has for all of us. For these 3,000 people come together as a community for only 1 week every year. And during that week, they move 400 miles or more across the width of the state of Iowa, and they do it by bicycle. There is both more and less to this story than a bicycle ride, as delightful and adventuresome as that might be. For many, the bicycles are almost incidental. It's a chance to meet new friends, to see the rural countryside, to be together with one's family, to experience the nostalgic qualities of small-town life. It's a cross between a family picnic and a state fair, one that happens to take a week to meander its way across the state. The event bears no similarity whatsoever to a race. Bicycles will be strung out the length of the 60 or 70-mile daily route from 5 a.m. until evening. Those who are not yet teenagers pedal alongside men and women in their 70s. Some are decidedly overweight or otherwise out of condition. Others are pulling small children in two-wheeled wagons behind their bikes. As remarkable as the riders themselves, however, are their hosts. Can you imagine what it means to a town of 300 souls to be invaded by a swarm of 3,000 hungry bicyclists? And yet, almost without exception, the welcomes are warm, sincere, and generous with free milk, lemonade, cookies, or some other local specialty. What is the impact upon the state's highway system and its law enforcement officials? What is the social behavior of the bikers? Do hundreds of young people off on a lark operate with a lack of social restraints often exhibited by their parents at a distant convention? And if not, why not? What of the cycling and biking equipment? Surely there must be some within this ambient herd who are on a bicycle ride. What can we learn from them about equipment and such? These are some of the questions we'll address during the next hour. They are the reason why I said earlier that there is more to this story than a bicycle ride. But I also said, as you may recall, that there is less to this story than a bicycle ride. Many of the bikers would find any search for sociological truths a laughable perversion of the whole mad, joyous adventure. For them, its whole purpose is its purposelessness, its preposterous quality. They love the fact that anything so totally disorganized can function at all.
Well, I think it's a rather unique experience, and one does have lots of fun. I think bicyclists are rather a distinct group of people, and I just enjoy it tremendously. We bicycled from Des Moines over here the last 2 days, and that I didn't enjoy too much, but I'm looking forward for the rest of the week. There's a tradition that bicyclists dip their wheels in the ocean or in major rivers, and since we're going to cross Iowa from west to east, we're dipping the rear wheels in the Missouri River, and when we get to Lansing, the end of Ragbri, we'll dip the front wheel in the Mississippi River.
All right, this is John Karras, who's doing a little panning this morning. What's the problem, John?
I just went up a hill following a 19-year-old kid.
Serve you right for running around with a teenager.
I know it.
What did you do with all these hills? You just sort of shoved them over into the eastern half of the state. Why didn't you spread some around over there by Ida Grove?
Well, we route the thing through the most towns that we can. And on this year's route, we missed all the hills of western Iowa because we came up that Maple River Valley over there. The only thing about this disturbs me is we have a lot of people from out of state this year. They're all going to go back and say, you were right, Iowa is flat, because they haven't seen the hills that we have here this year.
Why is the Register involved in an operation like this at all?
Oh, it's a promotional thing for the company. The Register circulates all over the state, and this is a way we can demonstrate our statewide circulation. And it's also, it's an extremely happy event. Almost everybody likes it. There are some people who don't like it, but they're a very small number, I think.
I'm sure someone asked somebody this question with regard to Thanksgiving about 10 years after it began, but how did this all get started anyway, and do you think it's going to go on forever?
It began totally by accident. I think anybody who could predict a thing like this would very shortly be a multimillionaire. It was started out, Don, Call, and I were going to ride across the state for the company and tell people we're from the Register. And we wrote a couple stories and said, anybody want to come along? They were invited. And people started coming out of the woodwork wanting to go along, and it just developed into this kind of thing.
Do you think it's going to go on year after year?
I really don't know. The people at the company, we have a meeting every fall. We decide one year at a time whether we're going to do it again the next year. I would think that if the towns ever started saying, no, we don't want you here, well, then that would obviously be the end of it. We've seen no indication of that yet. But it's possible that could happen if it got too big. I don't know what that means. Nobody knows what that means, what too big is. It might become overwhelming.
What do you think are the motivations of the people who take this ride? What all is going on here in sociological terms?
I think they're a bunch of nuts. I really don't know. I just really can't answer that question. There must be dozens of reasons for doing this. As you've noticed, I'm sure, we have all we have all ages of people on this ride. I'm sure that for the young kids, it's a lark. We have a lot of teenagers. A lot of the older people enjoy seeing the state as you can only see it on a bicycle. You're involved in it. You're experiencing it. You're experiencing it. You smell the smells. You get rained on. You get the wind in your face. You're really in it. And the older people enjoy that. They enjoy the historical spots we go by. They stop at the churches. They stop in the old cemeteries. And there's a very pleasant atmosphere in this community of 3,000 traveling across the state. You find a great deal more instances of people doing nice things for each other than they normally do. Kindnesses all the time. It's kind of amazing. People lose money and it gets returned to them. People lose things, it gets returned to them.
I think I've told you this before. I was bitterly complaining at how good my equipment was and how bad my body was to a friend. I have this fantastic bike, and biking tights and gloves and everything. And he says, Call, at the level we bike, everything is aesthetics. And I found that a liberating comment. I never apologize now for buying good equipment, even though I'm a donkey cyclist.
We started serving breakfast a little before 5.
Before 5?
Before 5. We were up here at 2, and to get ready, and at, about 4:45, people started gathering, so we just opened up the grills and started serving at 4:45.
That's terrific. Well, some of them, they take off about 5 in the morning, then they get to the destination by 9 or 10 in the morning, and their day's all over with.
Right. Some of them like a short day. They go while it's cool.
Yeah, right.
But a lot of them are out, they're just out for the trip, and they don't care how long it takes them.
Yeah, I think most of them are that way. It's not really a race.
No. Been some wonderful people. One gentleman flew in from New York. He flew his bike out here into Sioux City, and he drove down. In fact, he got a ride down to the camper there, and he's going to ride back to Lansing Highway, catch a ride down to Dubuque, and fly back to New York next Sunday.
Free apples and cold water.
Why'd you decide to do this?
Because I wanted. There's nothing else better to do. It beats doing the dishes and housework.
Have people been nice to you today?
Yeah.
How many have stopped about,
20, 40, or 30.
This is a little Massey 245 tractor that we make. Oh, that's a nice big long, how big is that thing? 10 by 20 foot trailer that we tow, pick up the stragglers, people that break down, people that can't ride anymore, people that get tired.
Well, it performs a very valuable service. How many of these folks, you've got, 2, 4, 6, 7 of them riding on there now. How many do you pick up in the course of a day?
Oh, I'll pick up 20 or 30, unless it's a real bad day, and then I'll pick up maybe 100 or 200.
And you generally tend to be towards the end of the line, I notice, since I also tend to be towards the end of the line.
I'm supposed to be at the very end, but there's always a few behind me. This is the fourth year that Massey's been on the ride out of the 5 years, and this is the third year I've gone.
How many folks do you think we've got on the ride this year?
Well, there's indications that there's about 3,500, 3,600, and about 250 to 300 RVs that are along with the ride.
Now, is part of Massey Ferguson's theory that you're going to sell some tractors as a result of this, or is this just a contribution?
There's a little advertising in it for the company, but we don't, other than the sign painted on the side and the tractor, that's all the advertising we do. We don't go out and try and sell anything.
Who first contacted the company about it, or who in the company first had the idea that this might be something you'd do?
Well, we went along on the ride the first year that they had a ride, and they didn't have any sag wagon, and there were 3 of us at Massey, and we got together, and 2 of the fellas went on the ride and rode bikes, and we had contacted the Register about it, and talked to Don Benson at the Register and Tribune, and he was more than happy to accept our services.
What all has this meant for the town of Lorenz? What have you had to do to prepare for all these cyclists?
A lot of hard work, a lot of fun. The community's worked really good together. We had to line up a supper meal and breakfast and a lot of eat stands for the afternoon. We had to have information booths, and that's about it.
Yeah, what's the population of Lorenz?
About 1,800.
So we're sort of troubling your population tonight.
Right. We're having a lot of fun. The bike riders are really nice people, real friendly, and we just had a really good time.
When did you first find out they were going to be coming through?
I really don't know. Probably about 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago.
Who contacted you about it?
I think probably John Karras and Don Call.
Yeah. So everybody's behaving themselves so far.
Right.
That's good. Where are you putting them? In a city park tonight, the campground?
No, the main campground is up to the schoolhouse, the football field, and they will be serving all the food there. The swimming pool's open to everyone for free swimming, and then a lot of people are staying in private homes.
It's kind of a challenge to get away, like from your car, from your TV, from all the accessories, and just take off across the state and camp. And you meet so many people, I think is also really a huge factor. That's a lot of fun.
If there's anyone on the grotto grounds who would like to join us in taking the tour, we invite you to come to the grotto known as Paradise Lost. The grotto is located north of the Stations of the Cross, just south of the lake. There's no charge for taking the tour, and it will begin in 9 minutes at 12 o'clock. Also, if any of you are planning on eating your noon meal here at West Bend, we invite you to eat with us at the Grotto Restaurant. Today, the ladies are serving homemade pies in short orders, as well as dinners such as chicken, roast beef, and meatloaf. The cafeteria is located just north of the station of the grotto itself. Serves cafeteria style, so you can eat as little or as much as you like. By eating with us, you are helping our cause. Thank you.
Can I talk to you ladies for National Public Radio about what you're doing here?
National Public Radio.
It's not a laughing matter. We take it very seriously.
Oh, I'm sure you do. We do too.
All right. What's your name?
Millie Albert.
And who all is responsible for setting this thing up here this morning?
This afternoon.
Right, it sure is. Well, we've been bicycling away. It's just that we forgot what time it is.
Well, the Whittemore Community Club and the American Legion and the Whittemore Women's Club, and then just a bunch of the ladies from town that were good enough to come out and help.
Well, you sure are mighty good. You're giving away free drinks here this afternoon.
All kind of free drinks and cookies.
Well, you've got
We started at 9 this morning.
Is that right?
I think there were about 4 or 5 dozen went through before we got set up. But we had a little problem. They were supposed to come through town. And at 20 minutes to 9, we found out that the road south of town, they were blacktopping, and so they had to come a mile east of town. So then we had to come out here to Bill Myers and set it up out here.
Oh, I see. I see.
So there were about 4 dozen got through before we had it set up.
How many cookies you giving away today? You kept any count?
Well, it was 72 cases of cookies at about, what was it, around 1:30, they said.
Well, I think it's marvelous you all do this, but what was the motivation? Why did you decide you want to do this?
Because it never came through Whittemore before, and ours is a little town, and nobody ever hears of us. And
Whittemore never got on the map before.
And yesterday, Whittemore was shown on the front page of the Des Moines paper, and suddenly we said, well, if they put it on the paper, by golly, we're going to do something about it. So we decided to give free drinks away and cookies, and we thought they'd enjoy it.
Is it a couple acres of grass?
I would say. We got a lot more down there to mow. We got as much to mow down there as we have here.
How long does it take you to mow it?
6 hours with 2 mowers.
Is that right?
Yeah.
You know, I often wondered about that. Why we're so much into mowing grass in this state, but we sure do mow a lot of grass for all the corn and beans and everything else we raise that's productive.
Yes, but
it's almost like we didn't have enough work to do out in the fields. So we got to come home and find some more to do around the house.
But it makes things look nice, though.
Yeah, it does.
Yes, it really does.
What do you have livestock here too, or is it
just hogs? I raise a lot of hogs.
And then you raise your own corn for them? Or?
Yes, corn and beans. I farm 160 acres. And I got about half corn and half beans, and I raise between 200 and 300 hogs a year.
Is that right? Do you sell any corn and beans then, or you use it all yourself?
No, I sell all the beans. I don't. Then corn, whatever I don't feed, I sell. But I had to quit milking. 4 years ago, we quit milking, so I've got a few extra hogs around.
Yeah. Was that because of the price of milk, or just
No.
it got too much work getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning every day?
I had to quit. Doctors told me I had to quit, so I quit. And then I went into a few extra hogs. And I still love to raise hogs.
What do you like about the hogs?
I don't know. I just love them. Easy to feed, easy to take care of. They're all on feeders and waterers. I don't have to do nothing.
You got the well just about pumped dry?
Well, they've taken a lot of water out of it. Over 200 gallons have been taken out. Yeah, it's been wonderful, though.
This morning we wondered what we were going to do today.
I still got a tree to cut down. I got a tree laying out on the fence.
You're not on this ride.
No, we're giving you the Kool-Aid, and we're treating you.
Well, you're sure taking good care of us.
Oh, well,
We really
we're
appreciate
glad to do it.
You think maybe you come ride with us some year?
Well, I have to think it over.
Why you have to think it over?
Pardon?
Why you have to think it over? I think you just come like that.
Oh, well, you never can tell. Might try it.
No, we got all kinds of folks on the ride.
Oh,
I guess
Yes,
you've seen just about all of them here, too.
Yes, certainly. One man was just here from Philadelphia.
Is that right?
Just came,
You certainly have polite people.
Oh, very polite.
Well, that's good to hear.
Oh, just lovely.
We've enjoyed things. No one's bothered anything. They've picked up everything and put it all away. It's been fantastic.
Yeah.
And they're so polite and they thank you and they just. They're gonna dine you, and I don't know if they're gonna wine you or not.
Well, I don't think so. We have a small bar attending contingent, I understand. Someone gets their brew in the middle of the afternoon. So it's a small portion of the day.
But they're gonna entertain you.
That's
3
excellent.
pork or beef sandwiches, I forget.
3?
I heard they were 3, didn't you? Yeah, I heard they were.
Oh, we picked up steaks just so we could have.
Yeah, we're gonna cook tonight. You're gonna cook out tonight?
Yeah, I brought my that's my bike over there with all the stuff on it.
How many stores are there that are represented on this trip?
I believe
one way or
about
another?
7 of them, but it'll give a flux between 7 and 10 stores. When we get close to other stores, and they begin coming out and doing their little ditties.
Is there something of a competition between them on this trip?
We're all pretty warm, like peddlers and have been doing it for 4 years, and we've done it for 3 years. And that competition ended pretty quick. The first year there was a little bit. Every now and then somebody gets hot, but also we're getting hot from doing a lot of the repairs and not having that much fun. Just following the riders mainly. It's about twice as hard as working in a shop during a week.
Yeah, and why is that?
Well, mainly we're working maybe between 16 and 18 hours a day, which is kind of hard. And it's constantly bicycles, of course. And we get to watch people riding, but we don't get to do much of the riding ourselves. When we get in camp, maybe we'll ride our bike down to, the shower or maybe into town to pick up groceries. That's about it. We don't get the long riding.
Do you charge about the same out here as you would in Cedar Falls?
A little less because I don't have to pay the shop. I'm doing it freelance. I'm taking the shop's inventory and I'm selling it for them. And I arranged for the van. And they're not paying me this week. So since I don't have to help support the store, I can drop my labor rates because the store makes money off of me also. So my labor rates drop by about $4 an hour out here, which is not bad. I can build a wheel for about 17, and in the shop it's about 22.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because they have to pay the shop for their light and heat and all of that.
Is there more repair to be done on one of these very thin-tired bicycles than on a...
Basically, the rider is a little more adept rather than inept. Technically, it ought to be the other, that these have more maintenance, but the riders tend to know more about the bicycles, and they don't hit the things that maybe an inexperienced rider riding a heavier wheel won't really notice the road ahead of him.
What do you see as the difference between there are all kinds of bicycles on this ride, aren't there? How do they range in terms of dollar value from the cheapest to the most expensive?
Well, probably the cheapest would go down as low as $10, $25, really. And the most expensive are ranging up into $900, $1,000. There are some racers from Michael Cyclery who are riding in a pack. They're doing some training rides. And they're traveling at a good pace, maybe 28 miles an hour is what we've been clocking them at. And they're all riding fairly expensive bicycles. A lot of titanium parts, a lot of expensive parts. But that's an extreme also. The bicycles on the on the ride are considerably better than they've ever been in previous years. The quality of the machines are getting a lot better. We're not getting so many of the older bikes that need a lot more repair. Like we would just be swamped the first 3 days, and the first 3 days have been really kind of nice. Most of the repairs have been minor. It's like a lot of the people have prepared, which is nice.
What are the most common bicycles on the ride?
Can't really give a brand name of a particular bicycle. They're mostly 10 speeds that range between about $110 and say $225. The mass of them would be, and they vary. They're Fujis, Peugeots. We sell Raleighs and Motobacan both, and we're doing quite a bit of business, and some of it warranty even on our bikes. But that's mainly it. Some of the nicer bikes like Colnago and Mossy are also here. There are a lot of frame builders also traveling with us who are building custom frames, and those are then assembled by different mechanics with the custom frame. But I know there are 3 builders riding with us that have quite a few of their frames riding. And a custom frame could run $200 to $300 just for the frame before you begin building. So you can imagine the price of the bike when you're done.
Wow.
Yeah.
What are the most expensive that you buy sort of off the rack, so to speak?
Of frames? Or
well, no,
bicycles?
when you just walk in and buy a bicycle on a store.
It would be a road racing bike, like the Raleigh Pro or the Schwinn Paramount.
What do they sell for?
They, as a production bike, they're not the top. They're a good production bike, say, top end, and they're right around $7, $7.5.
You're hanging a bike on the top of the post. Properly done, it is great. I've never seen it done before personally, but they are doing it.
Now, well, you have to describe for our listeners what it is you've done here, because it's very hard to describe since we don't have a camera here, see?
We've taken a Kabuki Submariner, good bike, sold by the bike shop in Tacoma, put it on top of this post, see?
Now, you have to describe how high the post is. I mean, it really was quite an accomplishment.
No, about 10 feet, 9, 10 feet. Oh, it's not that. No way.
Where's that guy can play the bass? They aren't playing.
You're going to tell us about the tents on this ride. I see all kinds of tents around here. What have you got here?
Well, I've got a Eureka Timberline. It's a two-man self-supporting tent. It's got all these. You can set it up without anything. I've got stakes in the ground now, but you don't need them. It'll stand all by itself. Except for the rain fly, you have to put those out there. But
okay, and the rain fly is sort of a
completely
tarp
separate.
that goes over the top of the tent and is a separate unit. You wouldn't have to put that up, I suppose.
no,
would
I
you?
didn't have it up the first two nights in the first two campgrounds. Last night it looked awfully threatening, so I had it up and was glad I did.
Yeah, what's the advantage of using it?
The rain fly or the...
Yes.
Well, it gives you sunshade because the inside part here is a little bit thinner, and then it's not waterproof in here either. So if you didn't have that up and it rained, you'd get wet, I think, in this one.
I see.
But if it's not going to rain, you don't really need it at all. I wouldn't put it up.
How much does this unit weigh?
Let's see, it was 7 pounds, 14 ounces, I think. That includes all the stakes and everything all wrapped up.
Is that right? So you could really carry this with you on the bicycle?
I am carrying it on the bicycle trip.
Oh, you are, in fact?
I am carrying everything. Tent, clothes, everything. And I'm carrying this.
Now, why do you not use the Register's truck?
Personally, I don't use it because when I get here, I've got my stuff with me and I can just set it up and be ready to go. Don't have to wait for the truck to unload.
So it's a pragmatic matter rather than a question of the theology of bike riding.
Oh, yeah, right. If I was a true biker, I probably wouldn't carry it because, you know, I'd want to go lightweight and everything, but I just wanted to have it with me.
Well, I would think maybe there'd be some who'd want to have it with them on the theory that that would be required in order for purity of a bicycle ride. You should be self-sufficient
I
or
guess
something.
you could look at it that way, too, yeah. It's self. Well, I've gone another 375-mile ride by myself where there was no truck. And in that case, I had to carry it, and I got used to carrying it, and I liked it, so that's why I didn't bother with the baggage.
Now, what does this unit cost?
It's up to about $95 now, I think, at most places. It wasn't that much when I got it, because I got it about a year and a half ago.
How many, are there a lot of competing brands that put out roughly comparable equipment?
Yes, but I wouldn't want to, I don't know them all. There are a lot of different brands. Eureka is just one of many.
How did you happen to pick this particular one?
Basically, because it was self-supporting, and it was about the size I wanted, and at the time, the price range that I wanted. And I checked most of them out, and I thought I'd get the most for the money and the weight and everything, you know, what I thought I needed.
Did you study it in Consumer Reports or something like that, or you just looked around?
I just got all the different flyers from all the different tent makers and checked them out, dimensions and weights and price and everything, and that was it. That was the one I picked, and I'm real happy with it.
How many tents would you guess there are in this voyage here?
I wouldn't even want to try to make an estimate on that.
There seems to be a little bit of everything.
Yeah, there's some homemade ones. I saw one the other night that was strictly homemade, made out of bicycle flags, folded over. And then there's, I don't know, there's just so many different kinds, it's hard to describe. There's a lot of other tents made by this same company, this Eureka, that are altogether different style. But then there's just, I wouldn't even want to say how many others. Or how many total tents there are in the whole campground.
They generally have facilities here for showers and that sort of thing?
Generally, and they range from ice cold to very nice and hot showers, too.
But I guess sometimes that's just a part of the swimming routine when they've got a swimming pool in operation.
Right, but they generally have a separate shower also. There's usually And I think every town we've been to so far, they've had a separate system or a separate place to shower, and then there's one along with the pool also.
Have there been adequate toilet facilities?
Just barely. I think it was just adequate. I wouldn't want to say it was, well, I don't know. It was adequate, I guess, but just.
Paul, what kind of a tent have you got here?
Well, that's a holiday tent.
Well, now, what do you mean by holiday tent? Because we don't have holiday all over the United States.
Well, that's put out by the Holiday gas station chain.
It's kind of a combination. Grocery store, hardware store, gasoline station, drugstore, a little bit of everything in there.
More or less, I guess.
Yeah. And what did this one cost you?
Well, they were $25, and they had them on sale this spring for half price, so it was $12.50.
That's a pretty good buy. Now, is that rainproof? You don't have one of those tarps over the top of it like some of the others do.
No, but we had some rain last night, and seemed to keep us dry in there.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And that's what's called a two-man tent?
Yeah, I guess so.
And you've got a pole system in the, just in the ends of it?
Yeah, one on each end.
And then the strings there that pull it taut?
Right.
And is that comfortable enough for you?
Yeah, seems to be okay.
Do you use some kind of air mattress or sponge rubber or something like that, or you sleep right on the ground?
No, we use air mattresses.
Yeah. And you shipping your stuff with a register's truck, or are you carrying it on your bikes?
No, we're shipping it with them.
Yeah.
It works pretty well.
Yeah. How much does that tent weigh, do you know?
Oh, not too much. I suppose 7 or 8 pounds, 10 pounds.
Yeah. Have you had any trouble? What's it like when you get here and there's an enormous pile of luggage and duffel bags and tents and sleeping bags to go through to find your own?
Well, we've been a little later than most of them. By the time we get there, half the bags are gone, so
well,
we
that's
can
one of
pick
the
ours
advantages, I guess, of being a little on the tag end of the ride. Huh?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, because they're all orange and blue, looks like, pretty much. You can't identify them by color very well.
Yeah.
Do you keep it in a duffel bag or something like that? Or?
Yeah, we've got an old army-colored duffel bag that we keep it in. It and the sleeping bags and air mattresses.
Do you have that duffel bag marked some way so you can identify it, or you sort of pick over them all?
It's just kind of a especially big one. We can spot it a ways away. It's kind of fat, and the others are kind of long and narrow.
Yeah. Do some people have difficulty figuring out which is theirs?
I think so. I've heard that.
Yeah.
A lot of them look alike.
Yeah. You think you may try this again?
Yeah, I think so. Probably try it next year.
Yeah. What do you like about it?
Oh, I don't know. It's kind of easy to be caught up in the spirit of the whole thing. I don't know, just a lot of people you meet and camping and the riding and working at it a little bit. A lot of fun.
Take your dog on a ride?
Oh, yes. Well, she broke her bicycle, and now she's mad and won't walk.
What does she do? Does she run behind you?
Oh, yeah. No, I'm driving.
Oh, you're driving. Oh, I see. Well, some people have those little wagons that go on behind the bicycles.
Sure, I could put her in a bugger, but she wouldn't stay.
Yeah.
No, she keeps me company on that long drive.
I see. Well, you got some bike riders on the...
Yeah.
I see.
I have a midget on a Stingray. My 10-year-old is riding a Stingray.
How's he doing?
One speed ride.
Yes.
My gosh.
He's only making about halfway, but he's proud of himself for that.
I think that's great.
I think it's terrific.
On a Stingray.
We can't find
Is that one of those banana?
Yeah, banana seat, high-rise handlebars, and little tiny wheels.
Oh.
About a 1-to-1 gear ratio.
What's that?
It's great on hills, but that's about it.
What time does you mean going down?
No, going up. He can take a 10-speed on a hill.
Oh, is that right?
Because he's got the 1-to-1 ratio.
So he's pumping
every pump is a wheel around.
I see.
He must have pretty strong legs.
Yeah,
what time does he start off in the morning?
I drop him down about 9:30, about a little less than halfway to wherever we're going.
Yeah.
He comes in about 1:30.
Oh, that's
terrific.
He's having so much fun. He was passing 10 speeds yesterday, he said.
Oh.
He said, must have been on a hill, right?
Tell me something about this town. You say you grew up here. What's the principal business? What are folks like?
Farming. It's agricultural. This is a rural town in an agricultural area. And this is a real good agricultural area. It's very productive and has been for years, and what you find here is very aggressive people as far as in their agricultural As far as industrial, no, it just isn't in this part of the country here. But
what's the principal agricultural business here?
Corn and beans is right now. It isn't like it was, 20 years ago when these farms, they were down to about 160 acres to a half a section, and everybody had cattle, hogs, chickens, milk cows. You don't find it anymore. It's more commercial now, not diversified like it was then.
Yeah, well, that's, you sorry to see that go, or you think that's just progress?
Well, I don't know whether it's progress or not. What I don't like about it, it spoils the family way of life. In them days, a family could be a husband and wife and have 3, 4, 5 children, and they'd all live off of that 160 acres, and there was plenty of work because you didn't have these great big equipment. And the children, they'd have the chicken chores and the hog chores, and they'd get the cows out of the pasture and get them in the barn and get them ready for milking. And now this here commercialized farming has taken everything out of it. And everybody on the farm in them days, they had plenty to eat and plenty of clothes, and they had a really enjoyable family life. And that's been taken out of the picture. So in that respect, I love the way my wife and I farmed. See, we had 2 children, and each one had his work. My wife, she tended the chickens and the garden and took care of the household. And when the children grew up, they had their chores too. They helped along.
First, the State Highway Patrol sees their role of seeing that the bicyclists get across the state safely. It's not that we're publicizing the ride, but we believe that safety is the most important thing that can possibly happen on this route. We are assigning now, this is the second year that we have assigned 2 full-time troopers to make the entire route with the group. They are monitoring channel 14 on CB, so they have contact with the support ambulances, the R&T's units, the tractor that picks up the survivors, so to speak, that don't make it on their bicycle. And so we're very concerned about safety. We did put an order out before they started riding at Ottawa on Sunday that anyone caught out before 6 a.m. went to the back of the line. In other words, we don't want any bicycle on that highway when it's dark without lights on. And very few of the bikes, as you realize, that are riding this type of a ride do run with lights on. Even with lights on, it is very unsafe because cars aren't expecting them out on the highways, especially in the rural areas of Iowa. But we see it as quite a challenge for us to escort, to work with these people, to see that they do have a safe journey along the way. Many times call homes such as death in family, sickness come in, and so our troopers with their loudspeakers drive along and are able to locate these people in a very short order.
It's a fearsome noise. You hear this humming, and 7 guys come going, 25 miles an hour. So it's frightening, frankly. I enjoy it, but they scare a lot of people.
Well, they knocked somebody off their bike yesterday, yeah. I was told.
I would think they went by close and scared her off.
Yeah.
Which is easy to do. Well, you could clamp down on that, but the more rules you have and the more regulations, the less of a ragbri it is, it seems to me.
What is this draft? Is that an advantage of going in a group that they...
It's enormous. I mean, it's, you're doing it without wind resistance. That's why they go in a straight line. First guy does all the work, and he'll do it for a while and then drop off to the end, and they'll alternate taking the wind.
Is that right? Well, we followed behind a sag wagon for a while, far enough back so it was safe, but it seemed to break the wind resistance.
Yeah, well, they do it within inches of each other's wheels.
But did you see those the bike club from Ames go by?
No.
How fast do you think they were going? 30 miles an hour, I believe.
Oh, I don't know. I saw them off and on. They weren't really averaging as much. I saw them 2 or 3 times. Right? They have been different. May have been different bunches of the same crew I saw, so it's hard to tell what they were doing.
Well, when I saw them go by, there were about a dozen of them, and the way that rubber was hitting the pavement, just roaring, just like a thunderstorm going. You know,
what, all riding in formation close together?
Yeah. They weren't strung out then. They were kind of bunched, and then they were all swerved to the left or the right. It was really beautiful to watch. They were in good shape.
In 70 years ago, I walked right up and down this street here playing the snare drum on the band, 4th of July celebration.
Is that right? Well, you had a lot of people through town today.
Well, I didn't get down here early enough to see the front end, but I've been sitting here in the shade and I've talked to a lot of them, and they seem to all be having a good time.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. You putting all that on there?
Sure. Oh, this is good stuff.
I better shut up.
No, you're doing this fine.
This town had stores on both sides. A blacksmith shop and post office over there, but shucks, that's all we got left right there.
How do you account for that?
People moved away, and nobody wanted to live in a small town, and the business, they were so close to other bigger businesses, you know, that they wouldn't come here to buy anything. Then they tore the depot down, so we ain't got no depot here anymore.
A lot of people are moving back to small towns now, moving into the country.
Yeah, they're deciding to, well...
Maybe you've been right all along, they're deciding.
Just like I tell a lot of these farmers, get back with them horses and quit that big buying that high-priced machinery. I farmed with horses.
Yeah, my uncle did. That's right. You know, I read somewhere the other day, a fellow said that if you farmed less land and used more horses and used that fertilizer and didn't have the big tractors and didn't have to use so much weed control and this expensive fertilizer, chemical fertilizer, that you could make just about the same amount of money as a fellow farm in a bigger farm.
You're right.
Is that right? I don't know, Steve,
yes.
But I thought that was pretty interesting.
These fellas are going, these young farmers, everybody's trying to get better machinery than the other guy. That's what they're trying to do now, I think. Of course, it gives them more time to go to town and loaf in town if they get this all done in one day. Like this one guy plants 100 acres of corn in one day. Well, if I could plant with that team of horses of mine, if I planted 20 acres, I was lucky.
Yeah.
I better not talk there.
But then that kept you out of trouble.
Huh?
Then that kept you out of trouble, see?
Yeah.
You want to hear some dreadful stories?
Tell me some dreadful stories.
Oh, come on, guys, we're going to tell dreadful stories.
We wiped out a couple times.
Yeah,
you should. Okay.
The very first night we were here, we got up and we thought it was 5:30, so we jumped out of bed and we started packing and changing, and all of a sudden we looked at our watch and it was 11:45 at night. We were all ready to go.
Yeah, we did that one morning. The cops started pushing us around.
And then that one day she left, see this is a retainer?
Our retainer, yeah.
She left it in a napkin in this greasy little cafe, and we had to go back there in 2 hours and dig through mashed potatoes and lettuce in the back alley to find it.
That was at the very bottom.
Which was not very
and
fun.
you got it in your mouth now. Oh.
And then, yeah,
And this is a retainer for your teeth.
Uh-huh.
You met any interesting guys on the trip?
Yeah.
I mean, aside from these fellas here, I wouldn't want them to overhear what you say. But.
Yeah, we met a bunch of guys from Chicago. They can open a 4-number combination in 30 seconds.
They broke it.
And let me see, how about Phil?
Yeah.
Phil's a rich kid.
Yeah, we've met lots of rich kids.
Really?
We had one guy.
How does a kid get to be rich?
I don't know. I guess he inherits it.
Born rich.
How can you tell a rich kid?
They
Well,
order
they're
those
bikes.
full, huge dinner
Yes,
things,
they
you know,
order
steaks and
dinners
soup
and
and
mashed
salad
Viking
and
soups.
rolls. They don't let you eat your rolls.
I know.
Squished all the rolls.
They wear the expensive biking suits and everything.
Well,
They got good bikes.
and then this one guy, he had a yellow convertible and he pulled us up one hill.
Yeah.
On the way
Breaking
into some
for it.
town. And he put on the stereo. We got a tape deck? Yeah. Put on Led Zeppelin. Okay.
And then he thought it looked like fun, so he came and followed us to the next town, and he spent the night there last night.
We went over and talked to him.
And he said he was going to go on it next year for sure.
You think you're going to go next year?
I don't know.
God, he's gonna move it, isn't he?
He's gonna take her out of here. He just brought down here to fill the tanks with water.
I see. What's your name?
Brenton.
Mr. Brenton?
Harry Brenton.
How'd you ever decide to... These are old steam tractors, is that right?
Yeah. This case was built in 1915 and the Nichols and Shepard in 1908.
When did you get a hold of these?
I bought the case 6 years ago and the Nichols and Shepard 4 years ago.
Well, they must be really collector's items by now, aren't they?
Oh, they're getting more valuable all the time.
I think so.
Yeah.
What do you do with them? Yeah, I mean, they mostly just to a show, or
just for exhibition anymore? We go in parades. Then we have our Thrashers reunion every Labor Day weekend, 3-day show. We saw lumber, thrash oats, shell corn, make shingles, do about the whole ball of wax.
Is that right?
And a lot of people reading these paperback novels get the idea that the West was won by the Colt 45, but it wasn't. It was won by the Sodbusters. When J.I. Case built their first traction engine in 1867, they increased the size of a grain field from 10 acres to 100, up to 1,000 acres. The steam engine, best thing you can say for it replaced the ox, the mule, and the wife on farm implements.
A collage is a distinctive type of pastry. It's kind of perhaps more on line of a sweet dough with a filling. And the ones that we prepared for this occasion, we decided that prunes were perhaps the most acceptable. So they will also use apricot or poppy seed or other combinations of fruit, but usually the prune collage seems to be the preferred brand.
Well, we used to worry, John and I in particular, about people dying of heart attacks. A lot of overweight people, out of shape jocks who are 45 years old. And we've had a couple people keel over, generally elderly people. In a group this size, no matter what they're doing, you're going to have a couple people keel over. If you had a knitting contest, a couple people would keel over. Apparently, strenuous biking doesn't have much of a deleterious effect on the heart. I mean, people, the first year we had 105-degree temperature, just terrible. And we had no health problems. No health problems. It's amazing. It's astonishing. What you get is broken bones. Yeah.
Because it's too hot.
You get broken bones. That's what you get. And the people I came on this with a bad back. I'm going to end it, if I don't fall down, with a better back than I started. The doctor said, don't do it. Doctors don't know about backs. They don't know about bicycling.
Now, is this the first day you've been on the ride?
Yeah,
Where did you start from?
Clear Lake.
And how old are you?
12 the 21st.
So you're 11 now? Yeah. And you've ridden how many miles so far today?
Almost 65.
And this is your first day out on the ride, and you just hit off 65 miles. Aren't you kind of tired?
Yeah.
How come you stuck with it?
I just want to do it, so I'm going to do it.
How old are you?
14.
14 years old. And how far have you come?
What do you mean? From 65 miles.
Are you tired?
Yeah.
Do you bicycle much around Clear Lake?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Just out to my grandma's and stuff.
How far is that?
I don't know, about a mile.
So is this the farthest you've ever gone in one day?
Yeah.
Have you enjoyed it?
Yeah.
What do you like about it?
I don't know, just going that far. I don't know, just, going a long way away from home and stuff.
What was your best experience on the ride?
Probably either going to the concerts or coming down that last hill.
You think you want to come again next year?
Yeah, sure.
Did you get this right off the rack, or what kind of stuff have you done to it?
Well, I bought a frame and then I built a bike.
Well, you built it yourself?
Yeah.
What kinds of things have you put on it, on this frame?
Campanella, Super Record brakes, and Seguino Mighty Victory crank, and some Campanella record pedals and Cyclone derailleurs.
How'd you know about all that stuff? See, a lot of our listeners, they probably don't know what all those brands are and everything. Where'd you find out about that?
Read them in Bike World.
How expensive is it compared with just getting one off the rack? Like those pedals, how much they cost you?
$50.
$50 for a pair of pedals. You realize first automobile I got, I paid $25 for it.
Oh, sure.
That's right. It was a Model A.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Many years ago.
Mini.
Yeah, well, they're lovely looking pedals, but why would anybody want to pay $50 for a pair of pedals?
Because they're much better than all the... They have alloy plates on them. They last longer than the other kind. They're more efficient. And that's what you need if you ride your bike a lot. Efficiency.
How about the derailleur in the back, those gears? Did you put those on special, or did they come with the Viscount?
I put them on because they shift fast.
What kind of derailleur is that?
Centaur Cyclone, but I might get Campanella someday, but you know, right now I'm in a pinch.
How much would a Campanella cost you?
Well, the whole derailleur set's $50 for records, but super records are a lot, too much. Just rear, no front.
How about the what do you call it? The crankshaft? What do you call the gear part? The spoke, the sprocket. What do you? Yeah.
Mighty Victory. It has the large ring has a. See where it's kind of like hollow? It digs in.
Yeah.
See that? Well, on the other side, it's humped over so that the chain will go from the smaller one to the bigger one easy. It just slides right up that.
I see. How much riding do you do?
Well, at home, when a regular day, we just ride around the lake. Try to every day, 20 miles a day, which isn't too hard, you know. But, and then go on ragbri so we can put in some good miles. Yeah, this first year I came, I was going to come last year, but I had to work.
Have you liked it?
Yeah.
Have you ever done anything like this before?
No.
What do you like about the ride? Why do you do it?
I don't know. People, girls.
They like your bike? I mean, is it like if you had a souped-up car or something? I mean, you think girls are attracted to a specially built Viscount?
I don't know.
Tell me about some of the experiences you've had along the ride. What have you enjoyed about it, or what has been the most frightening thing, or the most exciting thing?
Well, today I had a flat, and we had to stop and fix it. We had a flat in Charles City.
How'd you get the flat, you think?
I don't know.
I mean, some people think these expensive tires actually don't hold up as well as some of the cheaper, tougher, heavier tires.
My tires only cost $7 a piece. They're not too much.
I see. What, have you seen any accidents while you've been bicycling along?
Oh yeah, we saw a kid jump the curb today.
What happened?
Well, he landed on his head.
Do you have a helmet on?
Yeah, I think. I can't remember. I just saw him laying in the ditch. We had a wreck before a ragbri started. A car pulled out in front of us.
Did you run into it?
No, he did, and I ran into him.
Were you all hurt?
Well, I just, scraped my arm a little and my shoulder.
Yeah.
I wore a hole in my shorts from sledding on the pavement. But wrecked a pedal, but there was a rotten pedal. That's why I got new ones.
I see. Oh, you bought those on this ride?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Have you met any interesting girls?
Yes. Martha.
Oh, Martha. Is she around?
Yeah. Well, she's somewhere, but she don't like me, so.
Oh, I thought maybe you kept an eye on her to see where she was.
Well, she's over there in her tent somewhere.
Yeah. Who else you met besides Martha?
Leslie.
She's pretty special.
Yeah, I already know her.
Yeah, I know her, yeah. I already know her, too.
Oh, okay.
Do you think that's part of the reason kids come on a trip to meet, for the boys want to meet girls and the girls want to meet boys? You think that's part of what's
that's it, yes. Yeah, that's it. Get away from your mother.
Yeah.
Oh, man, it's the day of days.
Yeah?
Now, don't feel sorry for me. I'm just telling you how interested I am in this. But I've been in the hospital for 10 days. I crushed a vertebrae. And I got permission to come out today because I didn't want to miss this.
Oh.
And if I have to go back tomorrow, it's worth it.
There's an art in stacking paper cups. The styrofoam ones too, see, there's an art. Now, one on top of another, see? Now, the way this is, you start it off, and then everybody gets the idea, so you get it longer and longer.
How long would you say the styrofoam cup snake is at this point?
1, 5, about 8 feet long.
This is the civic organizations of Waukon, the Chamber of Commerce, the Kiwanis Club, Lions Club, and the JCs. The auxiliaries, the ladies have helped.
How much milk do you think you're giving away?
How much?
So far we went through about 2,700 cartons.
2,700 cartons. That's a lot of it. And this is a big dairy country, is it?
Yes, it is.
So this is your way of letting us know that as we pass through.
That's what we thought when we organized.
Well, it's a terrific idea. Now the sun's coming out. Looks like we're going to have a good day on the rest of the way in.
I hope so.
Is it hilly from here to Lansing?
Small hills, but mostly downhill.
Uh-huh. How big is Waukon?
Between 3,800 and 4,000 people.
And what is the principal business here? Is it the dairy?
Dairy, farming, yes.
And then there's a big dairy in town here somewhere, is there?
We have Meadowland Dairy, yes.
I see. Well, has everybody behaved themselves coming through? You've had quite a mob.
It's been grand. Everybody has been very cordial and very appreciative.
Well, I think we are very appreciative. Be out climbing those hills at 6 o'clock in the morning. You're really welcome this. Okay, well, we thank you very much.
You're certainly welcome.
Benson and Jeff Sned. Jeff Sned. Yes, Jeff Sned. Hip hip. Hooray! The bike repair vans, Ricks of Grinnell, Wilsons of Storm Lake, Madonia of Des Moines, Europa of Cedar Falls, Bills of Des Moines, World of Bikes of Davenport, Bike Peddlers of Iowa City, and Wicks of Pleasant Hill. Hip hip. Hooray! All the people who popped out of the weeds with lemonade all the way along the way from here to Ottawa. Hip hip. Hooray! For a rider who donated the big straight truck. Hip hip. Hooray! And last but not least, by no means least, Highway Patrolman Neil Longseth and Bill Zener. Well done. Well done.
For one thing, people want to have a good time with their families. That's one thing. The other thing is that you prove something to yourself, especially if you've never been on a bicycle before. You prove to yourself that you can do something. And it is a tremendous amount of satisfaction to a person that doesn't do an awful lot of biking to say that I can get on a bicycle and I can ride 60 or 70 miles and do that for 7 days. But just the feeling of fellowship, the feeling that you're one with the machine out on the road, despite the fact that there are 3,000 or 4,000 people, you and that bicycle are alone out there on the road most of the time, especially like when you're going up a long, tough hill. I think that's kind of a feeling that a lot of people enjoy. They just get away from everything. They get away from whatever is happening in Washington and whatever is happening in Moscow or London, and they get out in the Iowa countryside and they meet these wonderful people, drink all that free lemonade, and just enjoy people. I think it's the best thing in the world.
They're going to dine you, and I don't know if they're going to wine you or not.
No, I don't think so. We have a small bar attending contingent, I understand.
For the past hour, you've been listening to Options, Bicycle Ride Across Iowa. For Options, I'm Nicholas Johnson. Funds for this program are provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. This is NPR, National Public Radio.